Hi everyone, sorry for the delay. So good evening, Dharma brothers and sisters. Welcome to another term, and indeed another year, of Rongton philosophy classes based here in Canberra with the school called the Rongton Buddhist Training College, where we host Tuesday evening philosophy classes, this being the first term of 2023. So we have quite a large contingent on Zoom. In case there are a few new people, I'd like to introduce to you our teacher who will be leading this course. Our founder, spiritual director and teacher is Lama Choedak Rinpoche. He was born into a nomad family in Tibet, and his family escaped when invaded. Rinpoche trained as a monk under some of Tibetan Buddhism's most eminent masters of the Tibetan settlements in Nepal and India. As part of his studies and his training, he completed a 3.5-year retreat on various meditation techniques, this earning him the title Lama, which means teacher. He later received an honorary title of Rinpoche, meaning High Lama, for his translation work into English and his expertise in transmitting traditional teachings to contemporary audiences such as ourselves. So the topic for this term is mind and mental factors according to the Sutra, Shastra and Tantra. And just before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge our benefactors and sponsors who have helped to make these teachings free, as well as our hardworking committee and technical team. So with no further ado, I'll hand you over to Rinpoche. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamyangla, and thank you to our team of people who always assist us, Paul and Jorg and Kath and Viola and all the people who make many things possible, and particularly those all of you have taken up the time to be here. Without further ado, we'll start first of all doing the refuge, our refuge in the Dharma and the Buddha and the Sangha is such important to renew and bring to the forefront of our heart and joy that we are here, this fellowship together. And when you also practice, you always start with refuge, don't you? And also you remember refuge when you are in difficult situation, don't you? You should, because that's the whole idea. Isn't just start prayers before refuge, with refuge, but a difficult situation, we need to turn to Dharma. We need to turn to Dharma, and we need to turn to the ways of kindness, compassion, and wisdom. So refuge isn't a religious formality. It may look like one, but it is the Buddhist path, how to stay safe in what we think, and how to mind our thoughts. And Dharma is to change our mind. So let's do the affirmation of refuge, reciting that, and then our commitment to practice kindness to each other, compassion, joy in the small good things we have, and equanimity in those which we can't handle. We don't want to correct. We can't correct everybody's problem. We can't correct even our own fault. So just give yourself a break. Just practice equanimity. Even those who are so close, you want to change, just take a step back and practice non-attachment. And of course, those who you think are very difficult, even take a step back from them. Don't do too much ill will even towards them. That's equanimity. So this is a very important practice of the very person who has refuge should learn to take small steps to practice the four immeasurable. So we do this, start with that as usual. Most of you are very familiar with this. And we know that these teachings are, since we put on YouTube and Facebook, many people who are not on Zoom or present in person actually accessing this. We're getting so much feedback. And recent months, I haven't reported to you guys I have been invited to teach in a much larger Zoom audience, and it has. We had over 2,000 people joining on these classes. I've done 17 sessions already, and they continue to ask me to do more. So that shows that there is a great thirst for Dharma and people wanting to learn to practice the way of the Buddha. And so we have very good reason to rejoice our regular commitment, because most of us know each other, but there are many people who don't know Buddha at all. But through our activities, they're getting to know the enlightened one's teachings, and that is a great Sangha. So rejoice that. So with this in mind, we will do the formality of doing refuge and four immeasurables, and plus the requesting the teachings. So I'm not imposing these teachings on anybody. I am, but not quite. Literally, I'm not, because you're asking me. Thank you. Oyenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Atere future enlightenment by virtue Ajivendala Ashari Buddha True and Buddha Dhamma Sangha Atere future enlightenment by virtue Ajivendala Ashari Buddha True. May all beings have happiness and a cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they never part from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they never part from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near and far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they never part from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near and far. According to the intelligent and predisposition of it, where the Yatanda Dharma agrelo and come goes. Mental factors, which is a subject and topic taught specifically in Buddhist philosophical students, usually in the first year students who are studying actual Buddhist philosophical school colleges, and I'm going to use various sources, sutras. Sutras are mainly the teachings of the Buddha, on which the very topic of the mind and mental factors are mentioned. I wouldn't be able to do a lot of use of the sutras because of the nature of the sutras. It's mentioned here, a little bit here. There's very few actual particular whole chapter where it can. But there is one text in which there is a huge chapter on mind. So tonight we will be looking mainly the Sutra, Dhammapada. Dhammapada is the very famous Buddhist text that almost it can be regarded like the Buddhist Bible. People have translated that as the very teachings of the Buddha, and it has 32 chapters, and the 31st chapter has the very subject, the mind. So that it will be auspicious to start with the sutra. it has been translated not only in Mahayana Buddhism but in Theravada Buddhism. It's translated into Pali and Pali into English and so on. And they have very big stories and a commentary on each of that in Pali. And it's been translated also in Chinese, translated in Japanese, translated into many Buddhist languages. And it has also been translated into Tibetan. So that's one sutra we will use. Then the Shastras are commentaries. Shastras are necessarily Indic work, Indian masters, Indian acharyas like Nagarjuna, like Vasubandu, Asanga, and the like, their writings. And both the Asanga and Vasubandhu brothers have written so much on the subject of mental factors. So no doubt their writings are mainly commentaries on huge volumes of sutras. So their subject is used as the textbooks because usually when they study a mental mind and mental factors, they mainly study Asanga's and Vasubandhu's work on Abhidharma, upper Abhidharma and lower Abhidharma. So that would be the Shastra. The third component we will use Tantra, because in Tantric texts there is a particular concept called 18 natural conceptions. So that is usually not really included in the study of mind and mental factors because it's left to the people who do the subtle meditation on Vajrayana meditations. During that, they are able to they talk about how the mind dissolves when the body dies, and the most last part of the conceptions the person dissolves is these 18 natural conceptions that are associated with the desire, hatred, and ignorance. So that's very interesting for people who are practicing Vajrayana, but it's even more interesting for non-Vajrayanas because they haven't got a clue. Because these things are not mentioned neither explicitly in the Sutra nor in the Shastras. So, so we will go through that towards the last 2 or 3 sessions of this course. So today we will look at the 31st chapter on the Dhammapada, which is the mind. The subject itself is mind, and then the rest of the sessions, at least 5 of them, at least 4 of them, 4 of them, 4 of them, because these will be the first. So 4 or 5 of them, we will focus on Abhidharma Kosha, that is Vasubandhu's, and Asanga's Abhidharma Samuchaya. These are the 2 texts in which it talks about 51 mental factors. So there's Buddha talks about one mind, the commentators talk of 51 mental factors, and Tantra talks about 18 natural conceptions. And if that doesn't cover, I don't know what will. So I'm very, very well supported because I'm going to use the text, and I'm not going to teach on the basis of what I think is mind. Anyway, so tonight we'll go over the 31st chapter of the Dhammapada. The subject and topic is the mind. So I'll go through each of the verse and make sure that we do cover all these verses tonight. So which means mainly I will be reading through each of them, where I may pass few remarks here and there. But it will be really good because these are the words of the Buddha on the mind, So the first chapter goes, the mind is hard to grasp and light, going any place it likes. To calm it down is excellent. A calm mind leads to peace. So first line says how difficult it is to grasp the mind. grasp the mind, because it's light. It is light. You have to spot the light. You have to see the mind, which is identical to light, because you have to go beyond things to see the mind. It's when you try to grasp it, it darts everywhere and there. It goes quickly somewhere, and you wouldn't believe what your mind is on at any given time, and how quickly it jumps and goes and darts here and there. Is this your experience of your mind? That's so. The Buddha knew exactly. Buddha is the one who actually meditated and then became enlightened. He realized the nature of the mind, because he says it's light. Yeah, so you have to be identical to light. When we become self, it's opposite of light, dark, me, my. We get stuck in that non-mind, dark, dense, tense. So to light means we become free from self. To calm it down is excellent. Yeah. So everything we teach, we learn, it's all to calm the mind. Like the class I had here, we were talking about how to calm the mind. It's exactly, to calm it down is excellent. Calm mind leads to peace. Yeah, to have peace. You don't do ill will anymore. You see the stupidity of doing ill will. You don't realize how wasteful it is to dwell in the past, and how good to be present with whatever you do, because it calms the mind. Second verse is, when eliminating the base of demons, means foundation of afflictions. Affliction, my mind cast up from the sea, leaps to and fro, just like a fish tossed on the land. So when you're trying to spot the mind, try to tame the mind from the afflictions like desire or hatred or anger, or my mind cast up, and it's almost like it don't want to be caught, it don't want to be witnessed, it act like a fish put on the sand, because fish doesn't like to put on. It's trying to stay water, So it has the behavior of not liking to be spotted. Number 3 says, like rays proceeding from the sun, my mind goes racing everywhere. Rays of the sun, you wouldn't believe how quickly the sun just reaches. Everywhere. Like an elephant with a hook, the skill prevents this happening. So this exactly is saying that now one needs to have the introspective mind that actually hooks the mind, follows the mind, and then it prevents it from jumping to that, and thinking these thoughts, and then believing that, and then get caught up in the feelings that is created by the mind that lost its plot. So the taming the elephant mind is exactly that one needs to learn how not to do it. The mind is so fast. They say light is fastest, but who knows it? Mind does it. So mind has to be faster than the light. See? So therefore, the Buddha used the example of that. I refer to the mind, he says on the verse number 4, that conduct which has no use to me. He's now talking about the mind that doesn't listen and pay heed to himself, and mind unseen and essenceless will be ever pacified. So he's now talking about how to gain control over the mind without losing itself to its doings and thinkings and sayings, conduct which has no use to me, because people get dragged by their activity, their thinkings, their sayings, their doings, and they just stop him from being able to spot and mind the mind. Because the mind has not been seen before, it will be forever pacified. Once you really get to know the mind, it will make you peaceful. You never knew that peace was all to do with how to mind your mind. You don't control people, you don't control things, you don't change dramatically externally without doing anything in the work. You didn't realize that forever everything will be pacified once you get a good grip over your mind. Like a mahout to a wild elephant with hooks. See, this came from the Buddha, you know. Came from the Buddha. Now work in the right way. Hold this mind that earlier was doing as it pleased, chasing about, enjoying itself. So now it likens the mind as the untamed mind as a wild elephant, and the person who knows the mind as the mahout, and who has the introspection, who has the metacognitive awareness of the mind itself. Therefore, hook is the introspection. It actually sees, I need to tame my mind. And he, as the mahout, works to tame the elephant mind. I will not let the mind to do as it please, because mahout doesn't like the elephant go wherever it likes, what pace it goes. Mahout actually controls the pace and direction and what the elephant does. Likewise, we too need to be cognizant of the mind. So, subject of the mind, therefore, is that we become much more cognizant of what we are thinking and doing, and then not letting whatever the sense doors pleases themselves to do, go, say, and not do instead certain things. So you just basically contain and restrain your mind from doing what it does. But instead, you have this mahout in charge. You have your mind in charge of the not so useful lingering habits of the past. It is the house builder who caused the misery of often taking birth, many cyclic births which you have taken up to now. So it's saying that it is this very mind that has created these rounds of birth and death, all the stories in this life, good and bad, and likes and dislikes, all of these chains of misery has all been crafted by this very mind that went out of control. But most people who don't know mind don't think so. They never think the mind did it. They think someone else did it. They think, why I'm like this? Why I have these people in my life? Why I don't have that kind of people in my life? They're all going round and round in that vicious cycle. It's you are the one, your own author. That's Buddha saying. You have taken up to now. You're the one who's been creating this very thing. You are the creator of your own situation. This is really Buddhist saying the mind actually created the very things it is going through. It looks like at the very beginning very harsh to say that to the mind, but you know, all treatments are bitter. It tells that truth, which is not easy to accept. But once you accept the truth, you start changing your, and then you do not repeat the cycle of the karma. When you, the householder, are seen, this is now talking over the mind, yeah? Buddha is talking the mind. When you, the mind, which is the builder of the house, what kind of house you've been building, seen, the great beams of the house are all destroyed. The frames are all broken up. Then house building is done no more. The mind is freed from volition. The very birth is accepted at the end. So this is talking about the habitual patterns of your physical, verbal, and emotional patterns will slowly broken down. You will no longer be building those strong beams of me, I, my view, my opinion. All these things, they will be destroyed and all broken up. This is giving the image of a building a house of suffering. Yeah, lots of people. The thing they are the very suffering they themselves created, to the extent of becoming a slave to the things they have and they are, and no mastery over what they do, freedom from it. They're totally enslaved by the very things they have or they are. They're not able to remove even one beam, and they wanted to harden, strengthen the beams they have built, and nobody is willing to break those beams of samsara or pillars of samsara. So Buddha is talking what he did. He broke down. He almost metaphorically demolished his palace. demolished his palace, and there wasn't any Shakya kingdom left. Only after 2 generations of Buddha passed away, because nobody tried to do building. But they all got enlightened, so Shakya kingdom became completely empty of Shakya kingdom, emptied samsara, because nobody keep doing the samsara. So he's actually done it, So he's not talking about. He actually did it. Everybody got shocked when he left, when he broken the beams down. He was meant to be the king. He was meant to be the pillar of everybody to staying there, and But he just completely disappeared and went into the woods and attained enlightenment. Mind is fickle, moves about. It travels off. It's hard to stop. Secure it with sincerity. Like arrowsmith strengthens arrows with fire. So now he'll use the example of how difficult it is, because having broken down the home of his physical world, giving up, that is one thing. But being able to actually sit on the cushion and mind your mind is even harder. It's easy to give up your material world, but to mind your mind is much harder. It's very fickle, and it moves. You thought you're sitting there, but mind moves about. It goes off where instead of staying with the post where you have paid attention to, it not only goes away, it's hard to stop. So, therefore, security with sincerity means you have to develop a very good bodhicitta motivation. Why I'm doing this? Not for myself, not for today, not for this life, but for sake of other sentient beings. All lost, are so troubled in the mind. They don't realize how much trouble is self-made. And therefore secure with sincerity that you may make a difference to the world, like an arrowsmith, works with bamboo and uses fire because bamboo is fairly wet, Bamboo is mainly because of water, not because of fire. But to make the bamboo to become a good arrow, you need to use fire to shape it and to make it pliant and good. And so we need to also use techniques how to put the right effort to tame the mind. Whoever pacifies the mind, meaning, so it can be done by anybody. It's not a kind of a privileged position. Everybody has the power because everybody has the same kind of nature of mind. Whoever pacifies the mind that is not form, dwelling within, that travels alone and goes far, is liberated from great fears. Now, if you have fear, not to mention anxiety, not to mention depression, he says, you will be liberated from all of these sufferings if you know how to pacify your mind. This is amazing, really. You're talking about how to beat depression, how to prevent depression, anxiety, grief, and sadness, and hurt, and reject resentment, and all these destructive negative emotions are because we do not know the mind and its doings. So whoever pacifies, so Buddha is talking about that, giving the encouragement, like we have a saying in Tibetan, whoever, is disciplined, is knowledgeable and good can become head of Gelugpa tradition. So you don't have to be born in some particular race or things, or you don't have to have rich. Anybody who has this quality can become. It's like that. Whoever can pacify the mind, they will be free from fear, death, loss, parting, losing, becoming sick. You will not have fear, for instance. Full stop. This is Buddha saying, remember? He says if you pacify the mind, you will be liberated from fears. Even praying to Tara is pretty sort of sloppy job, really. Why pray Tara when you can pacify your mind? If you do pray to Tara at all, it's because she is the one who a little bit senior in doing that. So she might give you some tips. by reciting mantra, Om Taritu Taritu. So she says, then she talks to you through a bamboo. Yes, pacify your mind. There's no fear. even pacify your mind is a higher benefit than having a vision of Tara. I mean, what are you going to do when you see Tara? You say, God, you came. You're sure you don't know what to do with the Tara. You haven't brought her right drinks or whatever. You don't know how to treat Tara in person. Well, much better to have the sight of fearlessness than sight of a deity. All these deities are just little gifts. They're just little treats, so that you can overcome your fear. Not so that you become close to Tara and she will sort of put a fence around you and no harm comes to you. I mean, that kind of stories are portrayed, because we are so theistical thinkers. Most people are still very theistical. They say they're atheists, but when they practice Buddhism, they're still very theistic. They're always looking in the power of the Buddha or something from outside to take their fear away. No, it says, one who pacifies the mind will be liberated from fears. So even saying mantra or prayer to Tara should be to pacify one's mind, and not other way around, Because otherwise, quite a lot of people really they want to say so many millions of mantras so they can see the deity or whatever. And that's really not the purpose. That's just one of the means. Buddha says straight away, whoever pacifies the mind will be liberated from fears. So one who understands the mind and knows how to pacify. The mind that has perverted aims causes one great misery. Yeah. So the one who knows the mind knows that all your miseries has its origin in the perverted thoughts of the mind. Then the hater does the hatred, then enemy do enemies. You are not hurt so much by enemy, but your enmity to them. That is the understanding of the mind. Because enmity is the thought, it's not a person. Enmity hurts us more and makes us to perceive and project enemy. When the person doesn't want to be your enemy, but we make them because we have enmity towards him or her. People may say, he did this, but when you really think about it, they didn't. It's totally a wrong story. So there's no enemies can do harm to you, no hater can hate you, but then as much as your own perverted thoughts can. This is amazing information, really. It's the mind's perverted thoughts and emotions harms us more than troops of enemies. I mean, that is really what meditation is trying to inform us, how to mind the mind, so that we do not project and perceive them outside. Mind that has perfected aims, which is opposite to perverted, brings happiness to oneself. If you want to be happy, tame the mind. Do not host any of the perverted thoughts. It brings happiness. Fathers, mothers, all your friends cannot cause that much happiness, even by all of them, as much as your own mind that is tamed and pacified. No wonder the young prince Siddhartha has such a gut to go away from everyone, seek no favor from there, but just go and try to understand the mind. I mean, in this last life, he spent 6 years. And that's not a short kind of a laboratory test, He was looking at his mind to the extent of forgetting food, or not even needing to remember food. Sometimes people, does it happen to you? I sometimes feel, I haven't had lunch when it's 3 p.m. I'm shocked I didn't feed myself. But I wasn't feeling hungry, so why should I eat? But we're so habituated to look after the body all the time. You don't even notice, you don't even notice you're not in food. You don't even notice you need people to love you, respect you, do all of that. Even your 5 brothers do all the wonderful things. They still cannot make you happy. You feel egoistically, oh, I'm great, something. Totally perverted again. But one who mind the mind, never mind who does or doesn't do you, but your mind can do more cause of peace and satisfaction. And this is where every one of you who are so ardent practitioners, you do the meditation because of that, isn't it? If this is not happening in your meditation, you've got to careful reassess your practice. You're just building up the list of mantras you did, and becoming a little bit sort of anxious. I don't want to do this many sadhanas. I wish I can just do this a little sadhana. No, never mind your quantity of sadhanas, quantity of mantras, but how much taming your mind is happening or not. It's really, really. Then you are understanding the mind. Then you're not attending just a class in the Amma, that you actually are really, your happiness comes from being able to have a mind that is heedful to you, that heedful to the Dharma. And then everything looks good. Boundless pure perceptions. Everything manifests as within, so without. When your mind is at peace, everything appears positive, because that's the way the mind has been directed to. And you see, no, not your father, not your mother, not all your friends can cause that much happiness, even if they did everything. Those people who gain a lot of victory in some big activity, tournament or fighting, they're so happy on the day, but a few days later they're miserable, feeling they'll lose that title to others, and then they have to defend and stay hell, and they even lose it, yes. They never won it, because there was no real peace of mind, They're completely lost in the materialism. See? That's this image is very, very clear. Just as the rain keeps dripping in a house that is damaged roof, desires completely overcome the unhabituated mind. Just as the rain does not drip in the house with an undamaged roof, desires do not overcome the well-habituated mind. So meaning when you have peace in your mind, then you will not be drained by your negativities. Like the roof that is properly covered, it doesn't drip anymore. You're not living in a house that is full of, it is almost leaking, Yes, many people have beautiful roofs, beautiful ceilings, not a single drop of water falls in the head, but they are damaged by their drips of thoughts of me and him, why I'm there, and this. So that's exactly one who understands mind should learn not to stay in this unprotected roof of your mind. We work so hard to get a shelter and food and medicine, but still we are in cold, we're exposed, we're still hungry, we're still and we are still starving when you haven't got the mind in your hand. This is fact, and talking about this is fact. This is not some Buddha was suffering then in 2,500 years ago. We thought, this never happened here in 21st century. We have moved so far. No, actually, we have materially moved so far, progressed so much. But emotionally, people are so vulnerable, so little tormented. You wouldn't believe everybody's living without any roof on their head. They have no refuge. They're completely drained under this monsoon of sufferings. Drained. As you talk about the flood, people flooded in the poor me. Why didn't I do this? Why shouldn't I do this? They just completely lose the control. And this is exactly how the mind needs to be understood. Whether it's doing or it's someone else doing. It can undo it, even though we think somebody else did it. It's amazing. Quickly roof it. Very quickly. You can roof quickly. You can just call those plumbing doctors, roof doctors. They'll come and fix your roof in matter of weeks. At least put a tarpaulin on there for a few days and then fix the roof. And so why are we not so interested to fix the roof? It's senseless. Just as the rain keeps dripping in the house that has damaged roof, anger completely overcomes the unhabituated mind. Now here, Shakyamuni Buddha uses each of the analogy of the roof successively with each of the afflictions. The first one was desire, Now he's talking about hatred. People who are living in a roofless house when they are consumed by hatred and they don't know how to tame that mind. Just as the rain does not drip in a house with an undamaged roof, anger does not overcome a well-habituated mind. So one who knows how to tame, well-habituated means one who knows how to meditate. Meditation means becoming habituated to tame the mind, and so much so that you will not give yourself to ill will or anger. It's not what people did, it's what you won't think. It's amazing. Most people justify not to give up, not to pay big practice because what they did. That's exactly, you're exposing yourself in the rain. Saying, who took my roof away? And yet, you oneself draining in the very roof, very, very rain. When you're giving into hatred. But of course you don't give in hatred. Yes, you are now protected. You have practiced loving kindness, forgiveness, compassion. Those are all mental factors. Those are positive mental factors. In the 51 mental factors, they list 11 positive, wholesome mental factors. They list 22 secondary negative mental factors and 6 root negative mental factors. But here, Buddha says that you just switch it over. Instead of giving way to hatred and ill will, you do goodwill and forgiveness. Not because you're right and they're wrong, but they're drained in the rain anyway. So show compassion to them. They wouldn't know how to do better. Poor thing. See? There's no hatred. You feel empathy to them. See? Mental factor of wholesome empathy straight away wells into you instead of enmity and so on. And now he goes to ignorance. Just as the rain keeps in dripping a house that has a damaged roof, ignorance completely overcomes the unhabituated mind. Just as the rain does not drip in a house that is with an undamaged roof, ignorance does not overcome the well-habituated mind. So when your mind is wholesomely guarded and guided through your practice, prayer is good. Prayers to the Buddha, prayers to the Tara are very useful because you are seeing them as a manifestation of the enlightened ones to guard us. If you have that belief, that's a wholesome. Belief is one of the 10 wholesome mental factors. And some people think they want to practice secular Buddhism so that they don't have to believe in anything. They seem too smart, but I bet they found a hole in the roof again. No beliefs. Skepticism. They think it's healthy. But unscrutinized skepticism is not wholesome thoughts, Belief is not blind. Tested, examined. So here it talks about, so you don't blindly, ignorantly follow, but you check whether it's a blind ignorance and that, or you're not aware of your own ignorance. If you're not aware of your own ignorance, you're not conscious, and therefore you are exposed to the rain of sufferings, because you haven't got a mind that is conscious of the ignorance. Ignorance means absence of its own thoughts, behaviors, attitudes, perception, how things are manifesting are caused by one's own thought. Just as the rain keeps dripping, a house that has a damaged roof, pride completely overcomes the unhabituated mind. Now this comes to the fourth affliction, pride, the arrogance. This very pretentious feeling as I'm special or genius, or I know so much, or I know what you did to him, or that kind of, as we know that, then what actually is a fact. Most people's sufferings are caused by this pretentious feeling that as we know something, when we know very little of it. So therefore, a person they're completely drained in the rain, when they are living in the house that has no roof. Likewise, person who is putting too much on his arrogance and pride is overcome by that, and he doesn't know how to tame the mind about it. It means he has no humility, he has no ability to see the qualities of others. He's become very critical and see only faults of others. He's so good in seeing other people's flaws, he sees very little of his own. So that's the roof. That's the roofless. That's the roofless house where a person is completely drained, because he doesn't see the quality of his dad or mom or him or them or others. He just keep there seeing faults, and then he thinks he's so good that he has no faults. He sees everybody else's faults. Just as the rain does not drip in the house with an undamaged roof, the pride does not overcome a well-habituated mind. So meaning, how do we become well-habituated? Means a person who is accustomed to mind the mind through meditation, through discipline, through insight and wisdom that you can gain. So the more you gain these qualities, the less this root affliction will haunt you. So now comes the sixth one. Just the rain keeps dripping in a house that has a damaged roof, attachment completely overcome the unhabituated mind. Just as the rain does not drip in a house with an undamaged roof, attachment do not overcome well-habituated mind. So this is talking about the habituated mind and unwell-habituated minds. So habituated mind means you have to get to know the mind, how it is light, how it is fickle, how it's very quick, and so you have to be very conscious to be minding the very quick. To spot the quick mind, you need a quick thought, that mindset, because otherwise you'll be drowned into the rain, the leaking roof, which has totally damaged, and because of that you lost totally to attachment to some things, attachment to attitudes, your opinions. You wouldn't believe a lot of people are suffering because of their attachment to their views, their opinions. You just agree with your best friend's view, however convoluted and wrong they are. You don't even know that. You're so attached to your friend, you must support him. Yeah, a lot of people have completely lost their way because they listen to some deluded friend who they think is their best friend. Their best deluded friend, that's true. They didn't know they thought they were best friend. They didn't know their best deluded friend. And they listened to the best deluded friend, and then they did many deluded things. Exactly as the deluded friend do. Their attachment makes them to do things. But one who knows their mind, knows how not to be attached to those opinions and views of others. You have right to be different. You're quite happy, quite and attached to some deluded friend. Why you want to be drained in the rain? When you can put a roof over your head. Just as the rain keeps dripping on a house that has a damaged roof, craving. Now he gives another example, craving. This is listing all the root afflictions, which is very good introduction to the to study the 51 mental factors. The craving completely overcomes the habituated mind. Just as the rain does not drip in a house with an undamaged roof, craving does not overcome well-habituated mind. Like people who are able to give up their craving for some particularly like alcohol or drug or various things that are addicted to. When they know how to meditate, when they know how to practice mindfulness, prayer, doing good things with people, for people, doing things for the others, when you are not doing what I want to do, the craving for me too much, not doing what needs to be done for the betterment of the others and for people who really need help, to the situation what really requires help. If you detach and if you don't suffer from craving of me, then you let go of me importance, and doing for the others will be like living in a well-roofed house, and you will never be drained because you are not losing yourself to the mind of craving. So this list of things that we have gone through are very important. Desire. First is desire, anger, ignorance, pride, attachment, and craving. So these are the six mental factors, which are all negative mental factors. That if a person understands his mind, that is very difficult to spot. But if you pacify the mind, you pacify all these afflictions. Now that's a very first of the part of that chapter. Now the second is the thinking mind precedes all phenomena. Now this is very important because most people don't think the things precede the thinking. Actions of somebody precedes what? Thinking mind precedes all phenomena, meaning your thought is the forerunner of anything. For it is swift and principled. Meaning your thought is the most important principle because it's so swift you didn't even know you did it. Your thought did it. Whether it is a word or a deed, if motivated by vicious thought, it brings the person misery. The kind of miserable thought, angry thought, any of the kind of unguarded afflictions, if those things takes over you, you completely become wrapped in it, but you don't even know it. It brings up person misery, like the man whose head was cut by the wheel. The wheel came so fast, it just cut it. We become cut off by any of those negative afflictions because we don't know. It's our mind that takes over doing anything without even noticing that one is consumed by one of the afflictions. Thinking mind precedes all phenomena, for it is swift in principle. Now he uses the same here. Whether it is a word or deed, if motivated by pious thought, it brings a person happiness. But if you give rise to positive thoughts, it is the forerunner of everything. Then it will makes yourself saying things, doing things that are cause of happiness, cause of friendship, cause of joy to oneself and others, and so. Like man followed by shade, The shadow follows the person. Happiness follows the person who has his mind delegated to doing wholesome deeds, thoughts, and words. If you speak kindly to somebody, it means you have a forerunning positive thoughts. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to say kind thoughts. Why is somebody so able to say really kind things? It's because they had a mind that actually can think ahead. If I'm saying this to him, or about them to him, what would be the benefit? He thinks about the benefit and harm before he avoids the harm. He works to the benefit. So then he did something to you or to others, and he's happy all day because he's followed by the shadow of his positive thoughts. This means if you're angry or sad or miserable, sometime you may wonder where that come from. If you are a heeder to this chapter, you will know it's your mind. The one who hasn't heard about the mind, he thinks, it's what they did to me. What is these things happening to me? And they did this to him, and therefore I've got right to be angry. And when one is miserable and can't sleep, and then people are drinking alcohol, and all these things, It's all came from one negative thought too many that didn't get apprehended and stopped. Need to be apprehended to be stopped. Eloquence is not well understood by those who glory in dispute and seek with an afflicted mind chance to come out on top. Angry or agitated minds, or minds without faith, are unable to comprehend all the holy doctrine which the completed Buddha taught. So meaning people who are agitated, who are really deluded, they don't understand teachings of the Buddha. They think it's too ideal or too nihilistic or too simplistic. Minds without faith, they don't believe in Dharma. They don't believe in what Buddha said. So they just think too smart. They think they were taught to scrutinize. They thought to examine. They're examining the wrong thing. They're not examining their mind. They're examining things again. I see lots of Buddhists always examining others and then talking about others, and then it's terrible. They have no way. They're not understanding to examine their own mind, how much it is creating the story and drama. Totally get the wrong teaching. Some teaching actually says you should examine the teachings and to teachers or friends or others. But they're actually saying to check your mind. That is the examiner. They're not saying that you can examine everything, but not the mind. If you have to examine everything, then it defeats all the purpose of your examination if you fail to examine your own mind. And that's what's happening. Then people lose faith. People lose faith. Why? It says here, then, when they are so agitated, they have no faith. They're unable to comprehend that law of cause and effect. And they can't understand the Dharma. And why? Because only the enlightened mind can see the nature of the mind. An enlightened mind taught to any individuals pursuing on the path to purify their mind. He didn't say purify the world. Go and purify the world. This is teaching of the Buddha. He didn't say that. He says you should abstain from doing this, and purify your mind. So it means you have to purify your mind, examine that mind to purify. Then it's not the other way around. So you need faith. Faith is one of the 10 wholesome thoughts. You will notice later on when the chapter on one of the 11 wholesome thoughts, mental factors. This is not talking about wholesome thoughts in the sense, of course, people say, I don't have the capacity to have faith in Buddha because I don't know the Buddha. Fair enough. But at least listen to the teachings and practice them. See how much molding, how much helping it is doing to your mind. How much of that awkward shaped wood became a nice piece of furniture when you know what to do with it. Likewise, how much the awkward belief that you had quickly got, corrected. Instead of being warped by your wrong views, it got corrected by your kind views, faith in the Dharma. So this shows that don't become too obsessive, trying to examine things, examine your own mind. Because you will then comprehend, oh, teaching understand my mind. How did they study my mind? No, they didn't study your mind. They study one person's mind, and that was identical. Basically, there's no different color in your mind, no shape in your mind. All minds are very similar. It's just a little bit of different habitual patterns are imprinted. Otherwise, basic mind is so light and so pure and so uncorrupted and unimpeded and so boundless, because that's the nature of the mind. Whoever calms down wrathfulness, this is now Buddha talking, who understand listen to the faith in the Buddha, because teaching says, tame your mind, doing this. Whoever calms down their wrathfulness and the lack of faith in the mind banishes malevolence. Their minds understand the truth, Then they see, once they calms their wrathfulness, they say, this is the truth. This is the peace that comes from believing in the Dharma and believing in the practice. And then the malevolence you have, it banished. And mind then understands the eloquence of the Dharma, the truth of Dharma. Eloquent doesn't mean just nice sounding, but actually it's so true. Hard to believe, but when you really believe, it becomes truer and truer. It becomes truer and truer, I hear people talk about Buddhism needs to be changed. I don't think so. It's culture, it's mold, maybe it's kind of adaptation, maybe, but truth of the Dharma doesn't need changing, People are so impatient with culture and the trappings of it, because they don't realize they haven't got the Dharma yet. So don't throw the baby with the bathwater too quickly. First try to get the real gist of the teaching. Buddhism doesn't need change. If you read the Sutra 2,000 years ago, it's the same truth. And anybody try to translate that, anybody try to secularize that, anybody try to make some minimalist kind of approach, they are missing the point. Secular Buddhism, what the hell you're talking about? I don't want to hear that. Buddhism doesn't need to be secularized. Sure, some of it's, I would say, exclusive teachings of monasticism. Doesn't mean that everybody should be monastic. It never said, it never was, it never will be. Highest percent, even in very 100% Buddhist countries, they have only 6%. Highest percent, only 6% are monastic, and most of them are only temporary. Not even 1 year, couple months. Like Thailand, you will see the monastics very strong, but there they practice. It's exclusive people can stay monastic, and those, it doesn't mean they aren't. Those who are, we should rejoice. We're not saying the people shouldn't practice, but remember that secularizing doesn't mean denigrating Sangha. It rejoicing Sangha, those who can, but we should still not try to water down the Dharma to some no faith, no belief in the karma, no belief in the fundamental teaching, only try to take bits and pieces from Dharma and then try to make some form of discipline. That is almost unpardonable, sacrilege, really. Of course, Buddhism doesn't suffer. Anybody does that, but people who really know that, they will never dare to do that. Mind lacking in constancy does not perceive any holy doctrine. It's talking about people whose mind has no consistency, Where faith recedes, wisdom does not become completely perfected. Why? Because they are not able to practice the constancy with which they must, whatever that it is. We're not talking constancy, doesn't mean always in a religious sense, doing the same prayer every day, every hour like that. It could be a form of good discipline. I'm not saying it shouldn't. But constancy is that fundamental belief and faith in the Dharma and Buddha's words and how true it is. Every time you check, it's so true again. Why didn't I pay heed to that? Yeah. Where based on the attachment to conceptualization, the streams of the 36 horrid views gush from the stream of thinking mind. So it's talking about the very wrong views, how they become multiplied, The good repute of those who have coarse enjoyments and sensibilities and feeble power of mind grows less, like birds in trees stripped of their fruit. Mind, do not delight in ruinous desires. Be hard-working and cautious. From carelessness you boil in hell. Don't cry then from swallowing the lumps of iron. This talking about the how the mind creates, so much suffering. Here, or talking about hellfire, but people who have tried so much to craving and wanting and desire, and even though have so much, they all are fighting over things, they're destroying each other, nobody is advantaged by any of the things, it becomes cause of discord when people have lost themselves into craving and possessiveness, attachment. So, those people who sit when it is time to rise, stay home and do not work when young and strong, who are lazy when their minds mature, do not realize path of wisdom. So this is talking about restless the people, When they're sitting, they rise up again. When they're on foot, they want to sit down. So almost one action defeats the other. So that means those who have the mind, they should sit when they're sitting and do a good sit. Or too lazy to do, Laziness doesn't mean doing nothing. Laziness too busy choosing, never actually doing one thing well. Laziness or busyness, I call it. I think we had a topic of a Sunday talk. Laziness or busyness. Some people, I have no time. They're busy doing so many else. The real thing they don't want to do, They want to do this. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, they want to do. So everything looks interesting. But in fact, doing one thing very well is very similar, very, very slim. It's very less and less. One moment is, few weeks like that, another moment like that, and then all of a sudden they're doing it. That kind of restlessness do not realize the wisdom. Because of trifling, tiny conceptions, one's inner thought searches out faults, If those conceptual thoughts are not recognized, mistaken mind, time and again goes through cyclic existence. So it says mind itself whipped its own torment unconsciously. It still thinks it's something else external to them is causing them, and hence they are like the fish thrown on the sand, leaping up and down. There's no moment of stillness. When those with discernment, remembrance, perseverance, and skill in conception know them, each and every inner thought which searches out faults is banished with the mind. So one does not search for faults or flaws of others. One thinks it's a waste of time. All flaws that we see in others as projections of our own. Instead of projecting and trying to mind them, we should learn to mind our own, because at least then there will be a reduction of those very negativities, because then resentment, remembrance, mindfulness, perseverance, all these things is now geared to trim your own negative thoughts so they don't cast out the image that you don't like in others. the flaws of others that you see are not flaws of others that they are, flaws of your own that you haven't recognized. We have a saying in Tibetan, even though you have two pairs of eyes to look at others, but you need a mirror to see your own face. So that means so one who has the discernment and remembrance and perseverance, they engage the mind to mind and the flows of your own thoughts. The one who is banished away seeking flows of others are doing so because they are trimming theirs, if not uprooting most of them. Being able to uproot one's own flaws is great victory. Being able to spot others' flaws are great defeat. Looking upon a body as a pot and us as a city that the mind endures, fight and subdue the demons with the sword of wisdom and guard the exclusive place. So this is talking about the mind, how one needs to bear this, like the Manjushri sword of wisdom, the alertness. The very image of the sword in Mayan and Buddhism, with Bodhisattva carrying sword, in actually Buddhist teachings, is your alertness, is introspection. And because introspection is not easy to spot, maybe even so rare, so they give you a sword to look at it. What's that sword for? That's a visual image of introspection. Introspection means that we are examining our own mind and its thought rather than examining someone else's faults or assumed faults. So that's why the sword of wisdom was really an introspection made visible. And make the deity, Manjushri. Manjushri, what Manjushri? Manjushri is this gentle, glorious in you who minds his own flaws, who introspective. That is real Manjushri. So Manjushri doesn't show up in your meditation. Don't get upset, I haven't got mine yet also. But if a little bit of introspection is happening, yeah, you have reason to be delighted. Because then you're wasting no time. You're wasting no time in just searching for the flaws of others. Even you see them, you feel compassionate. They too have their karma, as I do mine. It's amazing. Then whenever you see flaws of others, you have more compassion to them because you have been there yourself many times, still doing that. So therefore you don't become aggressive or impatient to other people's flaw, but rather understanding them. You understand them. That's bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas have taken vow not to mistakenly see others when it's your own imagination. It's amazing when you understand the mind. When you understand the mind, you're heeding the Buddha. And the Buddha said, pacify the mind. This is teachings of the Buddha. He said, if you're doing that, then you are doing the teachings of the Buddha without teachings of teaching other people. Your living like that would be best teachings. It would be good, They say easily said than done. Yeah, that's right. I'm easily saying it here. Than doing myself. What do you reckon? Because I'm speaking on behalf of every one of you. But it's really useful. The teaching is so true every time. It always makes us to become aware. Looking upon the transient, as a pot, and as a city that the mind endures. Fight and subdue the demons with sword of wisdom and guard the exclusive place. So seeing everything as a transient, as a pot or a city, these days there discovering ancient cities buried. We don't even know the name. They have cities in Indonesia, a lot of this, they have discovering cities under the water. They don't even know the names of it. Even cities get buried. Look at the terrible earthquake that happened just today, I'm told, in Turkey. Just thousands of people buried. They don't even know which building is which building. Only hours ago, every room, every house was labeled and street was now they can't even tell which street, which house, which roof, which ceiling, which floor. All rubbles. If they discover 4,000 people, they say there will be at least tenfold still yet to be covered. It's that devastating. Everything is not impermanent just like that. Everything is impermanent like that every day. But we don't realize how impermanent things are. If you know the mind, you will. So this is the fight and subdue the demons with the sword of introspection, and guard yourself from grasping onto things to hold them longer than they last. Don't try to hold onto something from staying permanent, because they don't. Only when we see cities get erased by earthquake do we think it's impermanence. That's too late. We should think everything looks beautiful, but still, that I shouldn't get attached to these things. Not because they aren't, because they won't stay the same. Which is quite a mind thing. Your mind is really seeing something introspectively. You can see in your mind, you wouldn't believe how quickly it changes, how quickly it darts, how quickly it goes to places, how quickly it goes. Likewise, all things are just as transient as your own mind. It's a mental factors. One moment you love, other moment you hesitate. One moment you do this, another moment you wish you didn't do it. You wouldn't believe how impermanent your own mind is. You don't go try to see a city collapse. Your own city of love collapses in no time. You thought you loved someone, but now you're hating them. Have no hesitation to love them again. Look at this. Look at how flighty your mind is. And likewise, don't ever hold on to ill will towards others or something. You can change that into goodwill and compassion and forgiveness. And therefore, the same is true. You can change your mind. That is fighting the demon with the sword of awareness, introspection. Looking upon this body as a foam. Looking at this body as a foam, It's a very classical Buddhist example. And as a city that the mind endures, This body is like a city of germs. Or bacteria, I'm told. 84,000 to be exact. Buddhism is good at numbers, Always some numbers comes up. 84,000 bacteria to be correct. Just questions how many of them are cancer, how many are not. Quite a lot of them are benign, mild ones, I'm told. So don't be surprised. They're full of. Fight and subdue, Fight and subdue the demon. Subdue the demons with the sword of wisdom and guard the exclusive place. This mind, you have to guard the mind. Don't try to grasp, attach to the body and its health or lack of it. If you're going through unwell, maybe health problem, and you're getting miserable because that's the demon they're talking about. You're not seeing impermanence of all things, and you think you shouldn't get sick. Oh, ridiculous. You're sick on many levels. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm sorry, I'm going to ruining your evening here. Hope not. We're all heeding to the Buddha's discourse on the mind. This is from Dhammapada. I'm not reading any other. This Sutra, by the way, is even more holy because the Sutra is the Buddha's own words, looking upon this world as a form, not just your body as a form, the world, whole things that you have built, you're working on as a form, and as a city that the mind endures. Yeah? Fight and subdue the demon with sword of wisdom and guard the exclusive place. Yeah, so don't grasp onto any great thing that you're doing as long-lasting and permanent, and these two are all transient. So therefore, those who understand mind, they understand the impermanence of it, impermanence of things. Those whose minds are well conversant with the 7 branches of enlightenment, who dislike and banish grasping and contamination and remove all flows, such persons pass beyond sorrows of every world. This is talking about faith and wisdom and meditation and introspection, mindfulness, all the 7 limbs of enlightenment. It's talking about if those who are conversant, those who knows these, and therefore who are able to who like to banish the grasping, don't like grasping, and want to end the contamination, and will remove your flows. The flows aren't concomitant nature of you. Flows are just transient. They are adventitious nature of you, and as are other people's faults. So don't lump people with faults, nor you with your own past faults, because all the flows are also impermanent. So therefore demolish them. Don't lump people with flows of yesteryears and think, oh, that's what he is, who is the one who did this. God, a lot of time people are just always lumping. They're not able to see the transientness of everything. They're lumping as there's a permanent fault in someone, and blacklist them, and become a cause of the ill will. Self-damaging. Again, leaking roof. They think it's the fault of somebody that is permanent, and as a result of that, they lost the roof again. Whoever looks after the mind, now this is exactly what we are heeding. This whole term is about how to mind and how to understand mental factors. How to recruit some wholesome positive thought, mental factors, how to recognize and apprehend and negative mental thought, and try to restrain them. Whoever looks after the mind, like the yak protects its tail, or any animal, right, for that matter. It's not only the yak that protects the tail, and feels affection for irksome beings, that one's happiness does not decline. Yeah. So if you mind your mind, the yak is looking after not only his tail, he's looking after his whole body, So he's able to sort of drive away the flies. that's what the yak tail is moving, If you see the animal tail moving, either it wants some treatment, it wants some treat from you, or it's having some creatures biting its bottom. So, you will also notice, if you're looking after your mind, you are developing happiness, and this, it's instead of declining, it's increasing. The great among the elephants and elephants long in task both rejoice in the woods alone, because Buddha's mind, elephant minds are alike. So, it says those who really are into hurting the mind, they actually want to spend more time alone. Yeah. They're not seeking the company of deluded one. One is too much. One is too much. If the other one is, if other is starting not to delude it, then of course it's good company. That is a good company, because they help you to see how much the progress is potentially makeable by them, and then you get inspired, So it's good sanghas are usually for that. That's why we treasure sangha and fellowship, because you've seen now each other. Oh, he used to be like that. He's not like this. So we're much kinder towards them. We always see their progress and goodness. Amazing. That's kind of company we should keep. Because you've got the mind now is able to keep that kind of attitude. So rejoice. Rejoice in the woods alone. Don't feel lonely in the wood. People go to retreat and they feel lonely and come home. Just stay in the wood and delight the company of woods. Shantideva says, the woods and birds does not sing, neither praises to me, nor defames me. They are very useful friends. They do not cause anything to upset you. So there must be something in the wood. And even the greenies tell you that you should go in the woods. You should hug a tree, they say. And the Buddha didn't just hug a tree, he just sheltered under a tree. He sat under a tree and he got enlightenment under a tree because he liked being in the woods. Most of the retreats are far away from the cities. Why they need to be? And not designed to be inconvenient, designed to be convenient for the practitioner. So it's only the people, city sleeker thinks, oh, the retreat place so far away from your distraction. Yeah, that's right. But near to the place of sanctity and solitude and serenity. So far from where? Yeah, far from distracting places. But that's what it says. Why people want always convenient place, convenient for distraction. Yeah, you get lost and sucked in by the distracting places, and to the disadvantage of your spiritual practice. Shantideva has beautiful verses about the demerits of convenient places. And he talks about the merits of inconvenient woods. Those without malicious thoughts and those with love for irksome beings, feeling affection for them all, encounter no vindictiveness. Those with minds without malice and with love for irksome beings, feeling affection for all that live, encounter no vindictiveness. Yeah, when you try to be conveniently together with few finite beings, that's exactly when you lose yourself. But when you're far away from anyone but near to all, that's where you practice real thriving. And the Buddha was far from Kapilavastu, from his hometown, but he was nearer to all, including us in 21st century. Because he went in the woods so that he can radiate the light of enlightenment for people like us, even in this end of the world. So those whose minds are without malice and with love for irksome beings, feeling affection for all sentient beings, encounter no vindictiveness. From being a relative and a friend to all, feeling affection for irksome beings and cultivating a loving mind, happiness finds great increase. Yeah, your loving kindness is to all beings, particularly those who you think hates you. It's really the main practice. It's not to attract personal affection towards oneself from any finite being is love. It's possessiveness, it's attachment, it's grasping. If one feels affection and has no hate for any living being, virtue is thereby done. Yeah, the person who doesn't have any hate towards any being, and that's almost accomplishment. It's thereby done. A superior total merit is achieved by having love for every sentient being. Yeah, your capacity to love all sentient beings whose nature of the mind is just as identical as yours, whose outer form of the karma and suffering is because they haven't understood how to tame their mind. Humans who meditate with joyful minds and intrepid thought on the doctrine of virtue obtain happiness and accomplishment. And exactly when we practice Dharma and when we do, you will see how much more productive we are. Right understanding sets one free and liberates one from sadness. It pacifies one's thought and actions of speech and body. Meaning it's changing you, taming your ways of manners, behaviors. As a result of, like the Fletcher works on the bamboo, like the wise is working on his mind, and then his speech, his conduct become pliant and flexible. Even a 5-piece serenade does not give any enjoyment, as the single-pointed mind that sees well all phenomena. Yeah, there's nothing comparable joy and achievement that anything that you own, even the entire universe, will give you any joy or happiness that matches the bliss and victory from one-pointed meditation. That shows that the mind is the one that one needs to tame. Those who enjoy stability of thoughts don't dally with desires. Those saviors with no anguish at all will sleep in happiness. So this is talking about the one whose mind is tamed, will not let themselves drown in the cravings and in temporary pleasure such as sleep, in type of thing, So one knows how to moderate everything so that one prioritize the growth and realization of the mind, not at the disadvantage of the mind simply to please the senses would do otherwise. Those who enjoy stability of thought don't dally with attachment. The mighty with no anguish at all, they become happy. So meaning that your happiness comes from your ability to not crave the undesirable because they are undesirable, because not crave the impermanent thing because they're impermanent things. You don't get a shock. You don't get a disappointment if you understand impermanence. You get shocked with people on things as they are real and they're permanent, not because they're impermanent, because you thought they were permanent. Your shock comes from your illiteracy about nature of things, not because of their changeability. Oh, you're so changeable. You're so unreliable. Oh gosh, it's like saying, oh, you're so real. You're so real. You're changing exactly what the Buddha said. You're so shocking. So why are we disappointed with unreliable people? It's because we want reliable, permanent people, as we have been one. We are a good example of very unreliable, very impermanent, and rightly so, because we can't be permanent. Biologically, emotionally, intellectually, whatever it is, you can't keep up the same thing. It's just nature of things. How could someone feel miserable whose mind, just like the mountain crag, is deeply immovable and whose thoughts have become attached to objects of things and unmoved by objects of rage? So when you become like an immovable like mountain, not because you are immovable, because you know things are changeable. Because when your things are changeable, you don't get shocked or disappointed when they do. So you don't ask, well, how are you? Because you knew they won't remain same. So even they say, I'm fine, but how long? So if you're asking some question, people say, I'm fine. You can say, I'm fine so far, my dear. Very good Buddhist answer. I'm relatively fine so far. That's much better. I'm empty of total fineness, my dear. It depends how deep a conversation you want to go to the fellow Buddhists. If the people are not Buddhists, they think you're crazy. Maybe it's a good idea to say, every now and then throw those lines. I'm fine as far as today is concerned. It's quite a nice little bit of sort of humor there, and it's also true. It's true. You never know what will bring next afternoon. You wouldn't believe it. Your house might collapse. All kinds of things may happen, house may not collapse, but you're still in the rain. The window's fine, no damage to your house, but you're still in the rain. Remember, your roof is not there. You're full of anger or any of the rude afflictions. So it's good to be cognizant of that. Here is the teachings of the Buddha. Do not find fault. Do not harm. Protect personal liberation. Understand what amount to eat, what amount not. Cloistered beyond the edge of town, practice yoga of exalted mind. So meaning practice minding your bodhicitta. If you guard your bodhicitta, doesn't matter what you do externally. You might be walking, you might be sitting, you might be helping others, you might be helping your very difficult people. But do that with bodhicitta, he says, and understand what amount to eat and what to eat. Okay, most people are not good at amount control. They say I'm vegetarian and then they eat so much. Defeat the purpose. So even you're a vegetarian, still moderate the eating. Those skilled in mental science means now they can spot their mind, who find the taste of detachment, fully mindful with careful intent, enjoy possessionless pleasure, meaning detachment, meaning contentment. Rejoice what you don't have and what you don't need to have. Don't lament what you don't have, but rejoice what you don't crave for. Then there's contentment. Contentment is greatest pleasure because it is mental, it's not physical. Rejoice that you don't have children if you don't have children. Rejoice that you have if you have. Rejoice you have a difficult brother because you have a difficult brother. Because he teaches you so much flaws of yours. If you have a very easy brother, you wouldn't know. So everywhere you try to rejoice. The sincere who like and adhere to truth always guard the physical conduct and his words and his thoughts, and he give up sorrow and don't encounter any misery. It's like saying, did you meet any misery today? Yes, I met him. No, I didn't meet him today. Means you didn't. Your mind and your thoughts, your words and deeds was not perverted anyway, and then you're radiant. When you're mindful, you're radiant. Mindful is blissful, they call it, because when your mind is guarded from saying and thinking and doing things, you are radiant with joy because of lack of enmity, lack of craving, lack of poor me day. Is amazing. Don't encounter miseries. You don't encounter misery is homemade. Misery is not come from outside. The minds that are left unguarded are destroyed by perverse views, opinions, and overcome by sleep and fog. They fall under the demon's power. So the Buddha knows so well when your mind is lost in this poor me mentality, that's the perverted view. What I didn't get, I shouldn't do this, I don't have to do this much, and so on and so forth. Then that mind will withdraw from doing anything for the benefit of him or others, but spend a lot of time in the fog and doubt and uncertainty and therefore anxiety. They're fallen under the claw and jaws of the demon. The demon of self-grasping. Having therefore guarded the mind and being led by the right view, exact opposite, pondering the right conceptions. Because they talk about correct conceptions, incorrect conceptions, because you're now able to think correctly. Buddha is enlightenment. All things impermanent. These are good, correct conceptions. The world was created by God. Maybe it was. People also spend time thinking like that too. I don't know what kind of conception they are. And knowing right birth and perishing, the monk who overcomes sleep and fog attains the end of misery. So the practitioner is monk. Practitioner here is a monk who is able to reduce and overcomes the sleep and fog, and then he attains end of the misery. Nirvana, basically. Nirvana means absence of sorrow. The sorrow is not found in the mind, in the mind which is able to see the truth and heed to the truth and guard his mind. Happiness is a subdued mind. So happiness is not getting things. Happiness is not what people do to you. Happiness is a subdued mind. Amazing statement. It's good to have that as a bumper sticker. Happiness is a mind, subdued mind. And with pure vows. You hold vows to practice altruism, to practice harmlessness, to practice no ill will. And then doesn't matter what people do, but you don't do ill will towards him or her. And that is a subdued mind. Because otherwise you think you got justifiable reason to be angry because he did this to her or him and then you become totally worked up, and then you have no happiness because you completely lost your vow to practice no ill will, but you're doing just that. Be cautious and protect the mind. Amazing. And it's not like saying, don't talk to strangers. Be cautious, protect your mind. Protecting your mind is more important. If you're not protecting your mind, you're already speaking to strangers. You don't need to meet another one. Those creatures with mistaken minds are sentient beings who burn in hell. So that's exactly what is the consequences. Happiness is a subdued mind and with pure vows. Be cautious and protect the mind. Those creatures with mistaken minds are burned in the realm of animals. And he goes on, give to all the other realms, ghosts, hungry ghosts, human realms, even the devas and demigods. So those who subdue mind, of course, that's that. But those who have lost them, then excludes to each of the six realms. Happiness is a subdued mind and pure vows. Be cautious and protect the mind. Those creatures who protect the mind achieve the state of nirvana. Even nirvana is an absence of sorrow. So when we talk about the mind as the root of the thing, before we talk about the mental factors, is that being able to spot the mind that is very difficult to detect, and be light, and being able to apprehend the mind, and being able to see whether the mind is falling under any of the sway of the afflictions, or it is able to turn over the unafflicted state of mind. So that comes back to the very thrust of the teaching, says that do not let the mind or the body or words do any harmful things. If you are doing that, you're minding the mind. And instead, try to engage the mind to do wholesome thoughts, positive deeds, and kind words. Kind and wise words. If your outer body, verbal and mental conducts are doing that, then you are practicing the way and abstaining from the wrong. This then enables you to stay your mind pacified. Then your mind is kept peaceful. If your mind is very peaceful, because you have now been able to train the mind, and you are able to have the ability to apprehend the mind, which is afflicted mind, because you have to apprehend the afflicted mind when it's afflicted. Becoming conscious of the afflicted mind means you are able to spot the mind that's afflicted. But you do not get daunted and haunted by the afflicted mind, because these two are impermanent. Even your mind is impermanent. Don't think your mental factors are permanent. So don't think that negative mental factors are there by itself negative from its own side. There is no negative mind from its own side. And the very spotting of the conscious of the negative mind itself is positive mind. Not noticing the negative and negative is truly negative. So being conscious of the negative mind itself is positive mind, because you are using discernment. And so what Vasubandu and Asanga will teach us from next week onwards is how to look at each of those mental factors. What are the omnipresent mental factors? What are the object discernment mental factors? What are the root afflictions? What are the secondary? What are the root afflictions? And what are the wholesome mental factors? So when we are able to recognize, being able to name each state of your mind and being able to see the demonic nature of the negative ones and liberating nature of your wholesome mind. And then being able to gauge this within these two and then stay very radiant in apprehending them and not losing it to the negative and transforming it to the positive and being able to therefore tame the mind and then remove these fangs of the negative thoughts and feelings in one's mind will constitute peaceful mind. Peaceful mind have a peaceful, kind perception of things and beings and will therefore treat them with great care and kindness in spite of their unruly conduct, whatever they manifest externally. Why? Because your peaceful, pacified mind will be able to remove your own likelihood of giving rise to negativities, which you have a control of control of not letting the sway of that happen. Because now you're completely roofed to do. You live in a house that's completely covered. You will not be living in the dripping house of negativities, because you are completely sheltered and you have refuge. Even refuge in the Buddha is no refuge unless you hit to this topic of how to mind the mind. Then refuge in the Buddha means you're awakening. Then you are awakening, meaning you're actually growing up. You are actually becoming awakened. Not so much seeking some awakened one from outside to put his holy hands over our head, like that, but rather we become grown up and mature and become wakeful. We become awakened. Even if someone throws stones at us, it doesn't really hurt us. It doesn't make us feel enmity towards them. Let the stone fall wherever, but don't grasp to it as a truly existing problem, because it will land somewhere. If not on your arm, it will land on the pot or on the carpet or on somewhere else. So maybe it's landing on your hand is not a bad idea, because it's just another form of collections. Of course, we are not there yet, So don't do that at home, Oh, anyway, what that matter? Practice what they call mindfulness from getting hurt by making the wrong move. By not making the wrong move, you're able to see the what must be like him to throw the stone in the first place. What must be tormenting him to throw the stone? Poor thing. Never mind where the stone falls and damages what, but what is the reason why he threw the stone? Oh, that's really... Then you are seeing what is the tormented mind must be like, to the extent of losing the temper and throwing at such a thing. Then damage isn't caused by what he hurled at. Protection is caused by what you're thinking of his mind must be tormented by when he loses to the afflictive emotions. Then we are understanding the mind. Then we are understanding the mental factors and the karmic consequences. And then how the hell is brought by the negative, destructive emotions, and how healing and passive peace is also brought by the very practice that learns to pacify. So peace is not passive, peace is active. Actively preventing the damage from escalating, but healing being practiced in your own mind. And then the ill will is not kept. You're not holding and brooding ill will. You're generating goodwill as soon as you see the tormented nature of the one's mind. Never mind the glass broken by but how can we heal this tormented mind from throwing another stone anymore? See? Then we understand the mind of the person who loses his temper, who loses his conscience. Within a few minutes, he will realize that he shouldn't have, but he just didn't get the mind. He didn't have the mind to see the mind, and therefore he lost to his negative emotions. When you see that, you don't lump the person with his action. You disaggregate the person from his action. See? It's not he's throwing the stone. It's the who takes it literally. So many people throw a stone all the time. They think the whole place out in Canberra called shooting range. Crack, 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 crack. They're shooting all the time. Nobody minds. I don't know why. Maybe we shouldn't at all. No. So it's not the hurling of the stone of somebody, not the bad words that he says, but what makes him to say this. When he loses mind, he doesn't know what he says, what he does. When you understand that, that is where you are. You are the sword. You're holding the sword of introspection to not get yourself hurt, but you're able to guard by the intelligence. Then you're understanding the mind and its factors. So this is the 31st chapter, by the way. So we finish here tonight, everybody. It's got 64 verses, and I read them all. And they shouldn't be treated lightly, because any Dhammapada, this Dhammapada is the Pali one, Pali tradition one, Pali one. Pali tradition Dhammapada has this as the 31st one. The Tibetan Dhammapada is called Udanavarga. It's a slightly different version, but otherwise it's a little bit longer than the Pali one, and at least 70% of the verses are identical. There's the Tibetan Dhammapada is a slightly longer one, and so that's why some people, this book is available actually, Tibetan Dhammapada they call it, Tibetan Dhammapada. Gareth Sparham is the one who translated it, and available through Wisdom Books. I have also translated this few years ago, so I have, but mine one hasn't publishable for various reasons. But it's a very, very nice thing. And the Theravadan Dhammapada itself, is a slightly different version, but has a just beautiful chapter, and it has almost all of these verses. I think the number varies a little bit. So I strongly urge you to go and read carefully that Dhammapada is readily available on the net. Thank you, everybody. You've been very patient. I don't know if you've been listening to me or not, but you're not. You're listening to your mind, aren't you? If you're listening to your mind, then I can see, why it's called Dhammapada, Every pada means legs, in Tibetan. Every legs, whether it's 7-syllable, whether it's 7-syllable pada, or whether it's 9-syllable pada, very good to memorize these verses. If not, because if you're studying Sutra, you should remember some Sutra quotation from this. You can quickly download that chapter and pick few of them and memorize. It's so healthy. Just remember them. It stays like an engraving on the rock. They're so true to repeat. Remember. If you do that, then you can say, we read the Sutra. Because the Sutra is Dhammapada, the chapter is mind, and the verse number is whatever, 7 or 12 or whatever it is. You can remember them. And when you remember the teachings, it will always inform you. It will, the words are very useful. Therefore, it's good to remember. If you want to learn Pali or Sanskrit, you can remember them Pali and Sanskrit too. Very, very blessed one too. If you want to learn in English, of course, you have to read an English translation that is yet to be fully standardized. So that's why all these varying translations come up, because we are still going through the infancy of standardizing English language in Buddhist terminology. And I think Gareth did very well in the early 70s, I think. So when I did my translation, I looked at Gareth's one, and because Gareth is a Westerner, and he studied in the Dharamsala, and I think he's some kind of pioneer, a person who saw the merit of this holy text, and he didn't want to translate as called Dhammapada, he called it Tibetan Dhammapada. So that's his terminology, So I don't think it's fair enough to say it's Tibetan Dhammapada. There isn't a Tibetan Dhammapada. Why? Because Dhammapada is all either Sanskrit source or Pali source. So what he's talking about is Dhammapada according to Sanskrit originals. So it's translated from Sanskrit, and that is now preserved in Tibetan. That's what it meant. But when he published the book, it's called Tibetan Dhammapada. Because otherwise people say, oh, another Dhammapada, I've seen it. So there's, Tibetan Dhammapada. Oh, they do have Pali. Because Tibetan Buddhist canon has all the texts in Theravada in Tibetan. Slightly different version, not a huge, sometimes always longer and never shorter. For that reason. So Mahayana is a little bit long-winded, I will tell you. Less succinct sometimes, but a bit longer. And that's why Gareth titled this book called Tibetan Dhammapada, Sayings of the Buddha. So that's not he didn't say it's teachings of the Buddha. He didn't say the teachings of the Buddha. It's the sayings of the Buddha. And nowadays, Dhammapada is I remember in Australian Parliament about 15 years ago, Buddhist Council came from Sydney or somewhere, and they came to give Dhammapada to put in the Parliament, so that if anyone were to take oath as a Buddhist, Parliament, they at least got a book, Dhammapada book, that they can all put their hands on and they can take oath. I remember that ceremony, seeing that speaker and giving this. Because Dhammapada is very small, small but very big. It's full of Buddha's teachings. Okay, everybody, thank you very much. We'll do the dedication and merits as usual. Very, very good to have your company. Nice to see you all. Start of a new term, and I'm sure your practice is happening, and that's why you are so diligent to give each other's company. Thank you very much. Oh, by this mere mehoga, the defa menzanga of neza, mehale berero from the ocean of Bata desinade, herenda mayana dije, whatever mereda. I have a me be constant levels to hold my energy. Regiment renewed as a man to following over the example. I shall de mere mede salam body cheta teba where no yedanzo where has been bometing freely without generation. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rinpoche.